I am one of those very lucky people who met my best friend when I was just 2 years old. And today, Laura joined me to talk all about friendship. I can't wait for you to meet her. I'm sure you're going to love her just as much as I do. Hi, I'm Allison Edgety, a pediatric sleep and wellness coach and a mom of two. I love to help parents find solutions. This is How Long Till Bedtime. All right, well, hello to my bestest friend in all the land. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here with you today. This is fun.
Is this your first podcast?
It is. Longtime listener,
Of all
first time
podcasts.
caller.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm so excited you're joining me today. Last week, I had a conversation with a psychologist, and we talked about making and cultivating adult friendships. And I thought it would be fun for us to talk about our friendship because it's really unique. Not only have we been friends since we were 2 years old, but I think it's a particularly special friendship that has some unique aspects that not all friendships have. So we grew up near each other. I like to say that there was one very long block and a very busy road between our houses. And I actually don't remember when we met, but our parents have always said we've been best friends since we were two. I'm so curious. Have your parents ever told you how we originally connected?
Well, not until this morning, because I called my mom this morning and said, I have no idea how Al and I met, and that's weird. We've been friends for a long time. And she said, well, first thing is, our neighborhood had a ton of older kids, and we were the littlest kids in the neighborhood. So it was kind of hard for our moms to find friends the same age for us. So they were on the lookout. And then they sent us both to that little 2-year-old preschool up the hill by our houses. So we met in preschool.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I was thinking like our parents were friends, but not super close friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we were, inseparable.
Yeah. But she said when I called her, it took her like 20 minutes to remember how we met because she said, well, you've always been together.
That's right. That's right. And we did go to the same grade school and the same high school, but I was a grade behind because, of course, my parents held me back, which I was so bitter about. And then I held my own child back. And what I always remember our parents joking about when we were growing up is that we were the bicker sisters. And I do have some memories of kind of being like, and I'm done here. And we would kind of have to separate. And we literally bickered like sisters, but just like I see my girls do now, and it makes me think of you all the time. It's like, I'm done with you. I don't want to play with you. And then shortly after we'd been separated, or our parents would be like, okay, fine, then, I'll take her home or do whatever. We wanted to be back together immediately.
Yep. My daughters, like yours, are very close in age and are best friends. And so I often think of you because when they bicker and then they want to get back together, all they have to do is come out of their rooms and be together again. And for the two of us, we had already gone home. And then you better hope your mom wasn't cooking if you wanted to go back and play again because you were out of luck. You couldn't cross that big street by yourself. So our daughters are luckier than we were, and I often remind them of that. But I am grateful that you were my first bicker buddy because I think that I've taken those fighting fair, taking space, making up skills forward in all of my relationships ever since.
And when we talked about having this conversation, it was funny because you said, well, where are we going to go with it? Because it's not like anyone can say, great, I too want a lifelong friend since I was 2 years old. We cannot back up and go pick one of those up. But what I think is so special about our friendship and what makes it unique is that we did have and still have similar interests, but we are also so different. And I think the reality is that has continued throughout our adult life, and these differences are what make our friendship so rich. And I just remember, like, from early on, you played hockey, and my family had no interest in hockey. That's one of my earlier memories of getting exposed to something with you that I was like, "Whoa, what is happening?" We went to college hockey games, we went to high school, you had older siblings, we went to high school
Yeah.
hockey games, you played hockey, I got to go watch you play hockey. So that was kinda one of the first things where I was like, "Whoa, this is so different from things my family is into." And then you were Jewish and I'm Presbyterian, and I got exposed to everything related to you being Jewish, which was fantastic. I felt like I got to have all the things. And, we were both into horses, but I wanted to do thoroughbred hunter jumpers and you wanted to do Western quarter horses. So even where we had similarities, like we both love soccer, but you wanted to be the goalie, which is very different from what I wanted to do on the field. And so we had similar interests, but also always seemed to take our own path, even when we were doing the same thing. And we had very different friends. I think some of that was because we were in different grades,
Mhm.
but we had kind of mutual friends, but also different friends. And, you, I think, always knew you wanted to go to IU. Your family's kind of a big IU fan. And I didn't always know where I wanted to go, but I always knew I wanted to go far away. So there were just so many things. And it continued into our adulthood. So as we grew up, we had different career ambitions. I don't think we ever really talked about, like, oh yeah, we should both do something or other related to our career or majors in college. We had different political views. I mean, it could go on and on. Like, there were moments where you were a big partier, there were moments where I was a partier, and they were not typically at the same time. And
Mhm.
it just went like that for our entire friendship. But um one I thought of this morning was our weddings were another perfect example. You wanted this small, intimate wedding with family only, and then me as a clinger honor. And then I had this huge wedding,
Mhm.
and you had to partake in all the things related to the huge wedding. God bless you. So it just almost every turn, we kind of took our own unique paths. But while we were the bigger sisters growing up, I do have these memories, or I guess I should say I have no memories of us ever discouraging each other from doing anything, from playing with different friends or pursuing different activities or interests. And I feel like from day one, and it's unique because I see my kids navigating this, we always encouraged each other to follow our interests and dreams. And we never have tried to change each other. And I think we have valued our differences. And do you agree that that's kind of what's made it so great?
I absolutely agree. And at the end of the day, we are very different, but we are like sisters by choice. It's unimaginable that we would ever lose touch with each other. We are extensions of each other. And we love each other, plain and simple. It doesn't matter how different we are. It helps that we've known each other since we were babies because for you, having a Jewish friend was the most normal thing in the world. It's all you've ever known. For me, having a friend whose family had different political beliefs is the only thing I've ever known. There's no reason that that would change anything about our relationship. And I know that if I have a problem, you're the person I should call because you know the whole unvarnished truth of my entire life. And if I'm stuck in a tough pattern of behavior, you will see it. You will know it. You have no problem pointing it out. And I told my mom this morning on the phone, I feel like our friendship is like having the same therapist for your entire life. This person truly knows you. And you point out that we've always had different friends and that there's never been jealousy. It's absolutely true. And in fact, I would say that our relationship has made it easier for both of us to make different friends because our relationship, I don't know if this is how you feel, but our relationship for me is the strong scaffolding of my life. I know that I can be vulnerable with new people that I meet because I'm not afraid of how I'm going to be received. I have a true friend who loves me exactly the way that I am and doesn't think I should change a single thing. And that's so powerful. Our friendship gave me confidence in making new friends and in my romantic relationships. When I was in college, if Joe Schmo that I was dating didn't like the way that I wasn't going to change who I was. I felt confident in who I was because of the acceptance and relationship that I've had with you for all these years.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes, I feel the same way. And it's funny you bring up the being vulnerable piece because you have not heard the episode with Amanda, the psychologist, because it's hasn't yet come out. Um, but she talks about what it takes to make new friends. And there were three things. There was a study on it, and there were three things. And the third one is being vulnerable.
Mhm.
And if you're unwilling to be vulnerable, you're never really going to be able to move past that acquaintance. And someone kind of has to make that leap of sharing something personal about themselves. We also talk about that's different for everyone. Like, I'm an oversharer and, I'm no issue sharing personal things, and for some people, uh, they're not. Like, I talked about my mom is not an oversharer. She's, a more private person. So that looks different for everyone. But I love that you said that, and I've never really thought of it that way, but I do think you're absolutely right. We always had this person to fall back to, and that's so true, and I think it's something that any of us can look back on or look to is if you already have a really good friend, even if they don't live in your town, but you have a good college. I also have a great college friend too, Christina, Christina. Um, and so if you have those people where you feel like, okay, everything could go sideways and this person could think I'm a complete idiot for trying to be there for this launched friendship could not launch, you have this person, and I love that.
Me too.
So one of the things I have admired about you is your ability to make adult friends. And there are many things that I feel like I learned from you along the way. But this is one where I look at how I listen to how you talk about your friends and your kind of path you've taken. You moved back to our hometown, but you obviously everyone's not there, and you have some old friends from when we grew up, but then you also made a lot of new friends, and some of them are your kids, in your kids' world, and some are not. You have some couple friends, you have just a variety of friends. And every time I talk to you and you're talking about your people, I always think she's absolutely crushed it as it relates to making good friends, not just acquaintances, but you have made very good friends as an adult. And I'm so curious how that worked. Like, what do you think made that work for you?
I think, first of all, it helps to manage your expectations of what you expect from a friendship at this stage of life. People are busy. We've got kids, we have partners, people have careers. There's a lot going on. And so you just can't expect to pick up a friendship where you see each other every single day and every every single thing about each other. It's too much at this age. But I've been really fortunate and so surprised to make a couple of really beautiful new friendships as an adult. And then also a lot of very friendly, kind of, it sounds weird to say it, but like a slightly lower tier friendship that I also love. And
Mhm.
that is also important. We've got couples that we can go out with, and I don't share, my entire soul with them. But these people are also important in my life. It's nice to go out to dinner and be with people. And I've met several friends at my kids' school, which happens to be the school that we both attended,
I know.
uh, which is fun. I've been involved in the Parents Association there. I've met people that way. I've met the moms of my daughter's friends through play dates and field trips and that sort of thing. I also play tennis, as you do. And I play probably 4 or 5 times a week. I play a lot. And I have a whole separate group of ladies that I play with. A lot of them are in their mid 20s, and they are just the best. They make me feel younger. and I can share a lot with them. We've become really good friends too. I've met people in a lot of different ways. Um, and I know that you wanted to talk when we discussed earlier, you wanted to talk about how some of those relationships became really deep, true friendships.
Yeah, so you're touching you could have, like, been in this conversation with Amanda, but she talked about, routine
Hmm.
and being places like tennis is a great example. To see people repetitively is one of the steps to making the friend. There were 3, so I think that was the first one, to
Hmm.
see someone repetitively. Oh, and then to see them in multiple places. So, like,
Hmm.
you have to take it out of tennis into something else. And so that's just one example, but it could be any of these things. The Parents Association would be a great one. So I think you've touched on step 1 was you got out and you did things regularly where you would consistently see some of the same people.
Hmm.
And then I guess I'm curious, and you did share one story with me yesterday because I was asking about one of your specific friends, like how you took it to that next level. Can you give an example? And it's probably the whole vulnerable topic, but can you think of a specific example with one or more of these people where you're like, oh, yeah, this was the moment where it kind of pivoted?
Yeah, and I only have a couple of really true close friends, that I've made in town since we've moved back.
Which is all we
Um,
really need, by the
which
way.
is plenty, absolutely, yeah. Um, and those are the ones where I allowed myself to be truly vulnerable. I have a dear friend named Sarah. She was my daughter's preschool teacher, so I saw her all the time dropping off. Her kids are the same age as my kids, but we are very different. She's several years younger than I am. On the surface, we look pretty different. She's the nicest person on earth. I am nice, but she is preschool teacher nice. She always has a kind word for everyone. She's wonderful with children. She's quiet and curious, and she's a wonderful listener. She wears her heart on her sleeve. And when I first met her, I thought, I'm not nice enough for this person. I said to my husband, if she knows how loud and petty and blunt I can be, I will frighten her away. This woman is not going to want to be friends with me. But I liked her. She was so, I thought this person could make my life better. She could change my life for the better. And so I took a chance. I asked her over for dinner. We first had dinner together, and I consciously did not pretend to be anything other than exactly who I am. And it was a little awkward at times, just getting to know somebody as an adult, where you're kind of used to having all of your relationships in order already. But over time, our relationship grew. And she would tell you now that her favorite thing about me is how different we are and how loud I am. And how quick I
Yeah.
am to offer advice and how quickly I say exactly what's on my mind. Um, and also, I would say two of the things that have connected us really well. One of them is doing some things that are a little outside of our comfort zone. I remember
Mm.
after maybe a couple months of hanging out together, casually having dinner, things like that with our husbands, Sarah reached out to me and asked if my husband and I would like to go with them to Chicago overnight to see a Chance the Rapper concert, which is completely out of my comfort zone. I did not know who Chance the Rapper was at that time. And we just said, yes, sure, let's do it. That sounds like fun. I trust you. You are a fun friend. And so we went. We had the best time together. We totally bonded over this fun new experience. The other thing that unfortunately has brought our relationship closer is loss and grief. In the time that we have known each other, Sarah has lost her mother and her sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was there for her. I consciously showed up. I made food. I made phone calls. I was really there for her in her grief, and she has been there for me in turn in so many hard situations. And that's not how you want, that's not the way that you want to get closer to somebody, but it certainly accelerated our friendship. And she has changed me for the better. I think I'm a better mother because of her, and I'm a kinder and gentler person because of her. So I'm so grateful that I took a chance on this friendship with someone who's different than I am.
And I bet she would say the same about you. This is where you and I are similar. We're both very opinionated. Maybe we rubbed off on each other somehow in childhood. We might not have the same opinions, but we got them and we are willing to share them.
Yep.
But I bet she would say something similar about you without knowing Sarah, in that you probably have given her a little more of a voice. And there are these traits that you can share with people. But I also love that this person who's become so near and dear to you is also different from you. Because when I think of even friendships I've had as an adult, or kind of more casual friendships or things, it's like we don't all have to be the same, but sometimes you feel this pressure in a group setting with ladies, and maybe this is just me in the world I live in, but where it's this pressure where it's like people feel like everyone needs to like smile and be on the same page and be interested in the same things. And so I personally love that one of your closest friends is also very different from you, because I feel like you've just forged ahead with that path. And I'm not surprised to hear you showed up for her, because that is who you are. And I do think we talked a little bit about this with Amanda as well. We talked about a little bit in the context of don't be afraid to reach out to people you don't know super well that look like they need help. So we talked about new moms. And here's another example. You showed up for me when I was a new mom. You just flew to my house and were like, give me the baby. Like, what is happening with you? You're a hot mess. Even though you had your own kids, like you were like, I got it. Give me the baby. Like, let's regroup. You can do this, Allison. You're going to be okay. And so I do think that is absolutely who you are. But Amanda did talk about that even if you don't know people super well, you can be vulnerable, but then also don't be afraid to offer to help and to really kind of step up to help someone that you view as someone who could be your good friend or someone that needs a little help. And that can bring people together for sure. So I love all of that.
Well, I have another example. One of my other closest friends here, her name is Katie. She moved here from Chicago to be with her husband. They have a son who is in my older daughter's class. And we just casually met each other at school. And she reached out to me several years ago when they were in kindergarten and said, I don't have family here and I don't have a lot of friends yet. Um, I need to put somebody down as an emergency contact for my son at school. And it seems like I could trust you if I needed you, that you would be there. And I said, of course, I'm honored that you would ask me to do that, and I'm happy to do it. And you know what? I got a phone call a year later that she was in Chicago for the day and her son fell and was injured at school, and somebody needed to come pick him up. And I went to school and got him and took care of him until she could come home. And we've done things like that for each other many times over the years. And that's where it matters to have friends that are local. You know, emotionally, you're all I need, Allison. Right? You can be my emotional support, Allison, forever. But at the end of the day, when I am sick, I need somebody to pick up my kids from school, and I need somebody to be the emergency contact, and I need to physically see somebody at lunch. And man, we'll never take that for granted again after the pandemic, right?
Right.
Um, so those local friends matter too. And even though we are lucky to have the unicorn of relationships, I'm very glad that I've cultivated those relationships with these women who are close to me physically as well.
Yeah. And I also love, I think you and I have this in common too, that you have younger friends and older friends and kind of friends of all ages. And I do think there's such value to this. Comes back to the differences, to having diverse group of friends. And I also have younger friends and older friends, and you have advanced to playing tennis with the 20 somethings. Go girl, because I'm still playing with the grandmas for the most part. But
Really?
I love me my grandmas. And so I think there is a lot of value of having that diverse friendship. And I'm also guessing you've probably met someone along the way and you don't have to like shout them out, but where you thought maybe this person could be my friend and it didn't unfold that way. Have you had that happen as well?
Absolutely. I have met women who I thought, oh, maybe they were new to town. I try to extend an offer of lunch or just to get together and chat and get to know each other. And not every person has been for me, and I certainly have not been for every person. I know this might be a situation where it's not you, it's me. Um,
That I've done. I told the story on this last week's podcast episode. That people are going to hear it with this girl I just loved at a happy hour, and I was like, she is so funny.
mhm.
I just want to spend so much time with her because I had not laughed that hard in so long. And after I saw her at a couple more kind of group things, I realized, oh, I'm not for her. Like, I love her. And she was not mean to me by any stretch, but I'm kind of intuitive in that way. And I was like, dang it, I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to have to accept this. I am not her cup of tea, and that's okay.
Yeah, and you won't be for everyone. And some people, their plates are full. They're not looking for new friends. And it's not that you wouldn't be a great fit. It's just that they have enough already. Um, I think it's important to have, we were talking about the differences that we have with our friends. And I think it's important to be aware of what those differences are and to have some boundaries around your friendship too. Um, I have a friend with whom we could not be more different. Politically, she's super outspoken, and we have really differing beliefs that in this climate could be something that would do us in. And our friendship is way newer than mine is with yours. So there's danger there of talking about things that are totally inappropriate to that friendship and
Hmm.
causing a real rift. And so we just don't talk about that stuff, which is also
Yeah.
fine. You don't
Right.
have to share every single thing that's on your mind with every single friend that you have. Read the room, know your audience. I think that makes a huge difference in especially newer friendships. You and I can talk about anything, it's fine.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case with every single person I know.
Right. And I think part of that is we know each other so well that we know our core values are very, very similar. Whereas sometimes with newer friends, I think sometimes when you don't know them really well and your opinions are so different, it can be like, wait, do we have the same values? I'm not sure. And it can kind of throw you off. And you don't really know how to have um, a disagreement with that person. Like, you and I can just be like, "Well, I don't see it that way," and we kinda just let it roll and move on, but you don't really know how that's gonna unfold with everyone.
Yeah.
And I have lots of friends who I love to see at different gatherings and dinners and events, but they're not gonna be my closest people. They are friends for sure, and I could probably call them in a pinch, and they would absolutely help me, and vice versa. I would happily help them, but they're not the people that I'm gonna talk to about, like, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe what I saw on the news," or, "Can you believe what he said?" or this book that I have really strong feelings on. I'm currently I'm so curious if you're a very well-read person. Laura reads more books than anyone I know, even when we were kids. Like, she's been an avid reader, and she's a freaking speed reader, which I've been so envious about, and I read like a snail, but I do love to read. But I've been trying to think about getting a book club together, and I think this is a tough one because I want a book club where we're not just like, "Did you like the book? What did we think?" And I do wanna read this mix of books of like, yeah, great fiction, but then also some other types of books. And I was texting with one of my friends, not one of my closest friends, but someone who I think would fit this mold of wanting to have this type of book club. And we were talking about like, who could we put in the book club that's going to want to discuss this without this thing going sideways? Do you have a book club? I'm so curious. Have you been part of a book
Yeah.
club? Are you in one right now?
I have been in a book club before. It was many years ago. And the thing always immediately devolved into just chatting about neighborhood things and gossip and, the kind of stuff that people do when they get together. I feel like we never really nailed the book. That was a problem with the book club. Um, Also, the other thing is, you know, that one thing we have in common is our commitment to sleep. And so I go to bed at like 9 p.m. and I am in my jammies by 7:30. So an evening book club is not necessarily a great idea for me, but I love the idea of that. It's a good way to get to know your people. But like you said, I would definitely choose the closer friends, and I would set some guidelines before you establish that book club. Here are the kinds of things we're going to talk about. Here are the respectful ways that we can engage with each other so that everyone comes out of this feeling like, even though we're different, everyone is heard.
Totally.
But I love the idea. I would love to be in your book club. If I could zoom into your book club,
Oh,
I would be
no.
in it.
I would love to have you in my book club, and I bet you'd have lots of good recommendations because 'cause you've read about 10 times more books than I have. I can come to you for my book club recommendations.
I read a lot. My poor family is like, "Mom, can we have dinner?" And I'm like, "Duh, duh, duh, duh." let me let me finish this chapter. I have my priorities, and reading is very high on the list.
I know, even when I think it was it last summer when I stayed at your house? But I love, like, the second the kids were in bed, before I've even turned around, Laura is in her pajamas, she's got her decaf coffee, and she is in that book, like, waiting for me to reappear. But there was a minute before I reappeared for us to chit chat. Boom, in the book she was. I was like, "Oh, that's the Laura I know. She is in the book."
You've got to take the time when it comes to you, when you're a busy parent.
I know. I've just really gotten back into my reading, and it has brought me great joy. So I also appreciate that there are a lot of people right now listening who are not in the season where they feel like they have the energy to read because they have teeny tiny little people. And you and I have transitioned to a different season where we have that luxury. And now I can think about a book club again. So,
That's
but
okay.
that's, I thought,
We'll come back to it.
oh, that's right. Yeah. But a book club is another example where I think you can, people make good friends because there is, I think what book clubs do, although I'm not in one, is it does give you a chance to be vulnerable if it's a good book club where you can share thoughts on things and get to know people.
Definitely. I think they're a great way to get to know people and to just, I I think it would be important to read a good variety of books so that you get to know people in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, well, I have loved having you come on here. Of course, I always love chit chatting with you. And I guess my hope is that people listening, if there's anything they take away, it's that you can have those lifelong friends, the friend since you were two, the high school friend, the college friend. But we both agree you need in person friendships. And I hope that people, if they're struggling with that, because I heard from a lot of moms as I prepared for these two episodes saying, they've moved. They're struggling to meet friends. They haven't made a good friend. They're meeting people, not make a good friend. I guess I would hope that people would think about looking outside the box and realizing that the person who could be their new best friend, like your Sarah, is not necessarily going to look like them, work in the same field, have the same energy, and that they could value that. And I don't know if you have kind of a takeaway that you hope people have.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree with what you just said. Not everyone is going to have a 40-year friendship to fall back on like we have. Um, are we saying how old we are? I don't know. Is that okay? and,
It's like, wait, not quite 39 years, 39 years.
okay. I am 42. Um, anyway,
I'm younger than you. Let the listeners know.
all 6 months. I know. I've been paving the way for you all this time. Um, I I agree with you. I think it's really important to think outside the box with the friends that you may choose. Maybe purposefully choose someone who's a little different than you are so that they can enrich your life and make it different. And also, don't forget to be open and honest and vulnerable with your new friends. The worst thing that can happen is that you won't be for them and you'll have to try again. And that's okay. Keep trying. it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think your examples were perfect in that you asked Sarah to dinner or that Katie asked you to be the emergency contact. Those are all taking the first step. It's kinda like asking someone out. It's literally like dating your new friends.
Yeah. It is absolutely like dating. And but it's necessary. I think sometimes people, they force themselves to go out on dates because they know that they want to find a partner because there's a future that they see for themselves with a partner, but they don't necessarily think that they need to take the vulnerable step to make a friend, and that is as important, I think, as having a partner. I think it's those are going to be primary relationships in your life, and you should take them seriously and cultivate them as you would any relationship.
I couldn't agree more. I just heard another podcast, and I have not looked into this research, so I can't verify that it's true. But they made reference to a study that came out about friendships, and it cannot be your spouse. So it cannot be family or your spouse. And that if people don't, I think it actually might have been a study on men, but if they don't have friends, that this study predicted it could take up to 14 years off your life because you don't have that connection.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's true, but in theory, I believe in the concept that we do need these connections. I mean, I think we probably learned this in COVID, like it got magnified significantly, but we do need these connections. And so I do think it's important, even when you're in that season of like, oh, I have so much on my plate. I have these young children, I have a spouse, I have the dogs to walk, I have a job, that we have to craft that out or like cut that area out and focus on it to an extent, even if it's not as like it would be when we were in college. But I think it's actually important for our health. So you
I
are always my reminder that when I see you doing it, I'm like, I could do better. I could do a better job of connecting with friends.
Well, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. You can send a text message that says, "I'm thinking about you. I love you. I hope you're having a great day." And then, later that week, you can follow up with something with more meaningful connection. But it's not hard to do the little things that let someone know that they're special to you, and that will help forge those friendships that I think will last a lifetime. And I like to think that we are going to live well into our hundreds with this friendship that we've got going.
Well, we did always say when we were kids that we would be neighbors. And I think there's still hope down the road. Maybe in our retirement life, we will be neighbors. So I've not given up on that dream. And I joke because Addison will sometimes say, I'm going to live next door to you. And I'm like, man, yeah, you'll do that. And then Laura is definitely going to have to live on the other side of me because
Yeah,
we're
I've got
still.
dibs on living next door. We haven't done it yet, but that doesn't mean we won't get there.
No, I have not given up on that dream. Well, I am forever grateful for you. Our mutual friend Caroline happened to tell me last week on something unrelated. You and Laura have the friendship the storybooks are written about. And I do feel that way. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. And thank you for teaching me so many things and for coming on here and joining me for this conversation.
Thank you for having me and for putting up with me for all these years. I'm so grateful for our friendship and so grateful that we can share it with your listeners. I'm so proud of your podcast and all the work that you're doing. So thank you for letting me be a part of it. I love you.
Oh, thanks so much. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Love you.
Bye-bye. Love you too.
Bye. Thank you for listening to How Long Till Bedtime. To learn how we can work together to improve your child's sleep, please visit sleepandwellnesscoach.com.